Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and as you can tell, we're having a few technical difficulties here getting me into the TCR server, but for the first time in a while, I'm finally commentating on some TCR cars, and in fact, my game's just a little bit high. I'll just tweak that a second. Apologies for that. But yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen some TCR action on stream, and I'm glad we are back, actually, because it is the final round here at Snetterton, as we are with Colin Knief, who is currently leading this race. Colin Knief needs to be leading this race, because it looks like the championship is going to be Matt Daly's for the taking. Matt Daly has driven a very impressive drive all year, as has Colin Knief, and as have many drivers on the grid. But Matt is 41 points clear at the moment, and he can grab 50 this weekend. He is... I didn't get to see qualifying, unfortunately, as you guys also didn't, owing to a couple of technical hitches, which we have now solved, but Daly is close behind Colin Knief there in second position, as we have a bit of action between Barry Clayton and Alan Matthews. In fact, have we had a bit of an incident somewhere? Yes, we have. Will Inglis, and is that Will Harper? Yes, it is. Oh dear. We've had a bit of contact there, which has seen Will Inglis and Will Harper relegated to the bottom positions of the track there. Actually, was that? It was. See, I'm very out of practice now, unfortunately. I can't quite remember all the liveries. It's been so long. Colin Knief is still leading this race at the moment then, as we are into the first couple of minutes around the Snetterton circuit. So yeah, overall been a very exciting championship this year. It looks like Matt Daly should be fairly comfortable now. I don't think... yeah, I think Matt Daly only needs to score a point in order to take this year's championship. However, things could go wrong. Don't count Colin Knief out at all. Apologies there, just a couple more technical issues to be dealing with. It looks like we are going to be on board with Luke Wiggins as we head into the Brundle Curve. And it looks like, is that Andrew Whitehead? It is! That's not usually something we see from Andrew Whitehead all that often. He just looks like maybe he messed up on the braking there. The balance wasn't quite right in the car, as we see, I believe... I can't remember whose livery that is, unfortunately. It's been that long. Andrew Whitehead messed up the braking, maybe, and just saw the back end go around and saw him off. He hasn't lost too many positions, luckily for him, so he will be able to carry on as we start the next lap now. Down the centre straight, Matt Daly is not far behind at all. He just needs to choose when he puts the pressure on. He might not want to do it too early, in case he wears out these tyres. Something he will have to consider very carefully. If Colin Knief is trying to put a lot of pace through the car this early on, it could really ruin his championship challenge later on in this weekend. Two cars out in front setting very quick laps, actually, in the 150s. It looks like the field has spread out a little bit now after those couple of early race incidents. I think it was that Barry Clayton having a bit of an off. Yes, it is, unfortunately. Barry Clayton is nicely embedded into the tyre wall there. So he will be... Hopefully he'll be able to carry on. That car might have some pretty serious damage. It looked like he went in with some speed. Yeah, it was a pretty big runoff. So he'll probably have to pit, I imagine. As we'll go back on board with Matt Daly then, as he tries to hunt down Colin Knief, who is in first position at the moment. Not too far behind them, we do also have Luke Wiggins, who is rounding out the podium nicely. He's got a little bit of breathing space to the car behind. Having said that, actually under braking, it looks like he's not far behind at all. As we can see some of the time marks there of braking zones gone wrong. we go on board with Greg Young, actually, we just see him having a little bit of lock with Andrew Whitehead again, finding the grass. I just think we had a little bit of action between Guy Strawbrick and Will Inglis. Yes, we have. Will Inglis getting past Guy Strawbrick now, as he recovers from that early race incident. Colin Knief and Matt Daly out in front, setting times that are not too dissimilar as he heads up towards the Montreal hairpin. Luke Wiggins has actually just he was on a very quick lap, was Luke Wiggins. Sorry, I missed that. As he heads through Riches, he's using about as much tarmac as you probably want to, in fact using more than tarmac. And he has a very aggressive move, very aggressive defence towards Alan Matthews, and it doesn't work out for him at all. It doesn't affect Alan Matthews too much. But unfortunately, through the Montreal hairpin, he just cut in a bit too early, maybe. Not sure if that was a defensive move, maybe he just didn't see him. However, that has now relegated him to 5th position. Greg Young capitalised on that nicely, actually, with that little bit of battling was doing. I imagine these front lefts are going to get pretty worn and pretty hot. I've seen them locking up quite a lot. See Alan Matthews and Luke Wiggins echoing each other, just dipping the car off the tarmac a little bit. They're not GT cars, you probably want to be a little bit careful. These TCR cars can be upset very easily indeed. See again, Luke Wiggins carrying as much speed through the corners as he possibly can onto the Bentley straight. But we could be on for a nice little battle for the bottom spot of the podium for now, as Andrew Whitehead, as you can see, is... Oh dear, is that Alan Matthews? It's Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews going through Brundle and into Nelson has had a bit of an off. That sees him down to 7th now, unfortunately. And that promotes... doesn't promote Greg Young back into the podium, he was there, but it promotes Luke Wiggins back up into 4th and Andrew Whitehead back up into 5th. So Andrew Whitehead's had a nice little recovery given his earlier off, as we see Greg Young locking up onto braking again. If he does that too many times, this could work out quite nicely for the cars behind. They aren't that far at all, aren't that far behind at all. The pace is looking good. We could be on for a really good little battle for the bottom spot of the podium. Greg Young setting at a 1:57 and Andrew Whitehead setting a 1:56.2. Very quick lap from Andrew Whitehead indeed, as Will Harper overtakes Rob Whitney. In fact, it's been so long since we've had this many cars on track for our, of course, everyone wanting to take part for our finale, that I'm having to scroll to see the other cars in the field. Something I am very pleased to see. Meanwhile, out in front, Colin Knief has kept himself calm for the moment. I say that as he dips onto the grass just a little bit there. Didn't affect him too much though. He is about 2 seconds out in front at the moment. The gap has increased ever so slightly. This may be Matt Daly preserving his car, preserving his tyres for a later charge. As we head down the Bentley straight now, we can see Colin Knief is actually, I think, is he pulling a little bit of time? He's either keeping equal or is pulling a little bit of time on Matt Daly down the straight. Of course, we are open setups, so drivers are free to change and adjust the different aspects of the car, like the aero and the tyre pressures, etc. However they please. In fact, tyre pressures, last time I was in a TCR car around Snetterton, tyre pressures can have a huge influence on pace. Oh dear, as we join the battle for 3rd position into Brundle, it's been all sorts of action going on. We see cars locking up, Luke Wiggins going off track a little bit there. He now has Alan Matthews for company yet again. These two, I imagine, will be fighting till the very end of this race. Something we've seen previously, something that I hope we see more of heading into next year, as we had... Is that Greg Young going off track there? It looked like it was. Oh dear, as he mounts the curb a bit more than he would have wanted to. I can't imagine the underside of that car is looking particularly healthy anymore. He is luckily still in 5th position. That could have been much worse for him. And that now sees Andrew Whitehead back on the bottom spot of the podium. So this has played quite nicely into Andrew Whitehead's hands. If he doesn't have any mistakes like we saw earlier on in the race for him, he'll be, I imagine, fairly happy with 3rd position, given how the race started. As Anthony Gray has a little dive down the... it looks like he was trying to have a dive down the inside, then maybe thought about the outside underbraking as he headed into Montreal. Just see there, we see the steering wheel. It looks like the cars are already feeling a little bit front-end limited. We're only 10 minutes into this race, but Snetterton is a track that works your front tyres very hard. You've got, obviously, a lot of deep braking zones, and then these cars, obviously, exercise the front tyres very hard, so it's a recipe for tyre disaster. As Barry Clayton overtakes Will Harper there, we will join this little bit of on-track action, fighting for 12th position. It might be out of the point-scoring positions, but it doesn't mean that these racing drivers don't want to have a bit of action between them anyway. Colin Knief out in front now, extending that gap to around 3 seconds now. So Colin Knief is now going nicely. This is exactly how he needs his attempt to keep the championship fight going to the end of this weekend. It's exactly how he needs it to go, minus the fact that Matt Daly is the car behind, unfortunately for him. If Matt Daly scores a point, it is his for the taking. Have a bit more action as Anthony Gray dipped onto the grass a bit too much for his liking there. That sees Greg Young back into 4th position. It's now about 4 seconds between Andrew Whitehead and the cars fighting for 3rd behind, so Andrew Whitehead starting to look a little bit more comfortable now in that 3rd position. As you just see in the distance there, Anthony Gray and Alan Matthews in their little battle with each other are really pushing their cars quite hard, and it won't be kind to them later on in the race. I can imagine these tyres are going to be pretty exhausted, especially as they are driving so hard. You can see why though. I mean, it is the last race of the season, or the last race of this championship. I can imagine they want to be capitalising on it as much as they can, having as much fun as possible, as Luke Wiggins was very hard on the brakes there, thought about a move and decided to dip in behind and try it at a later point. Barry Clayton looked like he might have had a bit of an instant there, was maybe a bit slow on the exit onto the not the Bentley straight, centre straight, and has ceded a position to, no he hasn't, Barry Clayton has in fact taken a position from Steve Knight there. But the two championship contenders are absolutely in a league of their own this race. Nearly 20 seconds now separates 2nd position to 3rd. Obviously, third position. There's been quite an intense battle going for most of this race so far. And that, while it's something that we very much enjoy to see, won't be helping these drivers' race pace, as Greg Young has a much better exit out of the Williams curve and onto the Bentley straight there. He just absolutely flew past Andrew Whitehead and Anthony Gray. As we see there, Alan Matthews and Luke Wiggins. This will go to the end of this race, and I am all for it. I love just seeing these two. We're watching the battle for 3rd. You can just see in the background these two just absolutely scrapping it out. It's something that I love to see. Greg Young has usurped 3rd position from Andrew Whitehead, but Andrew Whitehead is hot on his heels onto the centre straight now. As Alan Matthews and Luke Wiggins swap positions again, heading down the pit straight themselves. Luke Wiggins has the advantage for now, but Alan Matthews is not far behind at all. And as he heads into Riches, I can imagine he's going to try a move. If he doesn't try it now, he's going to try it into the Montreal hairpin, which is something I think will be quite brave of him from this distance, but I wouldn't count it out at all. No, he looks like he's a little bit too far behind now. But this battle will be carrying on to the end of this race, and I'm very happy for that. We've seen these two race very hard, very well for huge chunks of time. It looks like a little bit of oversteer was kicking in on Alan Matthews' car there. Tyres maybe really are struggling now. We do only have 10 minutes this race. The race has gone quite quick, actually. Be a shame. The racing action, what we have left of this season, is coming to an end. I've really enjoyed seeing these Giulietta TCR cars go around track. I'm not sure if the drivers have. They are a challenging car, but it has made for some exciting racing to see the drivers battling with this car. Only a few tenths separating the battle for 3rd. It's going to be a really, really good battle, as Andrew Whitehead is closing in on Greg Young, heading down the Bentley straight now. He will have the benefit of a little bit of a slipstream, and of course, if the setup is a little bit different, that will help him immensely down this straight, because you go into a very deep braking zone. It's a great opportunity for some overtakes, however. It's quite a thin part of the track, and it can be very easy for your race to go very wrong very quickly. As we see with Greg Young there, dipping it onto the grass, exiting Nelson there. he will in fact be relegated to 4th, and now he has Anthony Gray for company, and imagine he's going to try it down the inside, heading into Coram. And he does indeed, heading into Murray's now. It looks like he's going to be a little bit far behind, maybe. He might try something under braking, but Andrew Whitehead, meanwhile, has comfortably taken 3rd back. And I imagine it's secure now, but it won't be secure for the rest of this race. This will go on for quite some time, and I am very looking forward to seeing that. Andrew Whitehead, in fact, setting a very quick lap of a 1:55.8. They are carrying about 20 litres of fuel at the start of these races, and that will drop off quite substantially as they carry on, but the tyres also drop off very harshly in these TCR cars. So it's very good to see him posting a very quick lap there. Using the word very a lot. Just exaggerating everything for our big grand finale this season. See Andrew Whitehead dipping a wheel over the curb again. He hasn't lost too much time. It looks like the battle between Luke Wiggins and Alan Matthews has died down just a little bit. They're not on each other's bumpers as they usually are. There's a couple of seconds between them now, but I wouldn't count them out towards the end of this race. Maybe Alan Matthews is doing what I hope Matt Daly, or for his sake, is doing, and saving the tyres until the very end. We've got just over 5 minutes of this race. In fact, no, pardon me, just under 10 minutes of this race left, accounting for the final lap. And in fact, if we look, as we see a very smashed windscreen on Alan Matthews' car there, Greg Young is closing in on Anthony Gray on the Bentley straight. I imagine Greg Young is running quite an aggressive setup, leaning towards top end. Maybe not that much downforce at all. We've seen him locking up quite a bit, the car kind of fighting him, but he does have some very good pace down those straights. Fortunately, I don't have the whole race graphics suite that we are used to, so we're missing out on some good key bits of info like deltas, etc. and speed traps. I apologise for that, but it was all a bit last minute as we see Luke Wiggins having a bit of an off there, and that will surely allow Alan Matthews to close in, heading down the centre straight now. In fact, it doesn't look like he lost that much time. From that wide-angle camera, it looked like he really lost a bit of pace, but as it was on the exit, maybe he was able to recover it a little bit there. This is Riches is a very scary corner as you head towards the end of the race. You have to carry a lot of pace, but of course, as the tyres die off, all they want to do is understeer. All the car wants to do is understeer. But it's a huge opportunity to lose a lot of time. So if you play it safe, you can end up finding yourself vulnerable, especially to cars that have been slipstreaming you down the pit straight. See Anthony Gray locking up ever so slightly with Greg Young hot on his tail now. I imagine Greg Young, as we head through the Hamilton complex and the corners surrounding that, we are going to see Greg Young try and provide another challenge through the Bentley straight now. Anthony Whitehead still holding third for now. As we head through Williams, then Greg Young just behind Anthony Gray, and Greg Young, I imagine, will be diving quite quickly into the slipstream of Anthony Gray. Anthony Gray himself echoing Andrew Whitehead's moves, heading into Brundle now. We see a bit of a lock-up. I think that was from Anthony Gray. I don't think that was from Greg Young. We saw the smoke there. But Greg Young actually sitting quite nicely now behind Anthony Gray. Meanwhile, out in front, Colin Caniff has driven a very impressive race. It's exactly what he would have needed for his championship had Matt Daly not been scoring points. 5 seconds now separating them. It just doesn't look like Matt Daly's had the pace. In fact, we're going to join this battle for third again, as it looks like Anthony Gray has finally been overtaken by Greg Young. Greg Young with a personal best there of a 1:56.2 as we head into Riches now, and it looks like Anthony Gray is leaving brake until the very last moment. Very brave there heading into Riches. Tried to get move done there, but he can't quite get it done through Montreal either. But yeah, very late on the brakes into Riches was Anthony Gray. That takes some serious bravery, because you can very quickly find yourself off into the barrier on the other side of the track pretty much. It's quite a long run off there. Anthony Gray is positioning his car in a way that must be intimidating Greg Young just a little bit. You can see him kind of positioning it to the side of Greg Young every single time he comes up to a braking zone with him. He may not be going for an overtake, he's just looking to intimidate him perhaps. And it could be working there as we see Greg Young lock up and Anthony Gray get particularly close to the rear bumper of Greg Young's Giulietta TCR. Onto Bentley Straight there, we can actually see Andrew Whitehead in the distance having a pretty major off. Looked like he was getting a bit too much speed through Williams there. Maybe the tyres really are starting to struggle now. He lost a lot of speed, but he had a fair advantage, so it hasn't affected him too harshly. Next, but as we can see him in the distance there, he probably just wants to watch those tyre temps and look after them now in the final 5 minutes of this race. But Greg Young has not been given an easy race by Anthony Gray at all. These two have been trading places, trading blows pretty much the entire race now. This battle for third has gone on for a long time. And it looks like it's going to carry on to the very end of this race. As Luke Wiggins and Alan Matthews have separated out a little bit now, so it looks like for now that battle has diffused ever so slightly, but the battle for fourth is strong as it has been for a huge part of this race now. So we'll just do a quick rundown entering the final few minutes of this race. If these two could politely stop having such good racing action, I might be able to do a rundown, but instead we're going to watch them into Montreal as Anthony Gray is going to try and brake as late as possible and dive around the inside of Montreal. It wasn't going to work though. He's picked the safe option and ducked back in behind Greg Young. We see a puff of tyre smoke from Andrew Whitehead's tyres there. As they really must be struggling for grip now. They've just been pushed so hard this entire race. Of course, an immense amount of power, a fair amount of weight, and a lot of high-speed corners and a lot of braking zones on this track. Corrin particularly must be pushing the front left very hard indeed, as Anthony Gray sits in the slipstream of Greg Young's car. If he's brave under braking now, he could get it done into Brundle. In fact, it looks like he's going to position the car nicely, rather, on the straight, and he will, as we head through Nelson now, be able to get the move done. However, he hasn't been given an easy ride by Greg Young. Greg Young is very close behind indeed. So, as we head into the final couple of minutes of this race then, we have Colin Knief, who has led the race from lap 1. A very good race ride from him indeed. It's what we've seen so far this season. He's just impressive drives every weekend. Similar to, in fact, we had a little bit of an off there from Barry Clayton, maybe, that has allowed, or maybe Guy Swarbrick, that has allowed Barry Clayton to overtake for 9th position. But yeah, much like we saw from Colin Knief, Matt Daly, some very impressive drives. Unfortunately, not the drive he would have wanted today to take the victory, but nevertheless, it's going to be a decisive, well, I say decisive, it won't be decisive at all. It'll be a very close win. Pardon me. Word soup is currently coming out, but yes, a very, very impressive drive from Matt Daly this season as well. A well-earned championship victory for Matt Daly. Of course, we've still got some more races this race weekend. Andrew Whitehead, after that intense battling for 3rd position, will be taking home 3rd position in this race. It's swapped around for the entire 25 minutes of this race, but it looks like it's going to be Andrew Whitehead's for the taking, unless we have some more major offs, as Will Harper overtakes Guy Swarbrick. Maybe Guy Swarbrick losing a little bit of pace towards the end of this race. Maybe just overused his tyres a bit too much. We have Anthony Gray taking home 4th position for now, as long as Greg Young doesn't provide him a challenge within the final couple of laps. And then we have Luke Wiggins taking home 6th at the moment, Alan Matthews in 7th, Will Inglis in 8th, and actually I'm just going to join Colin Knief because it will in fact be the final lap of this race. Because Colin Knief has just started a new one, I believe. Yes, he has, as he heads through Montreal. You can just see the car of Rob Whitney in the distance there, so Very good drive from Colin Keneath so far. So then we have Will Inglis in 8th, Barry Clayton close behind in 9th, Will Harper in 10th, Guy Swarbrick in 11th, and Steve Knight in 12th position, Rob Whitney in 13th. I say Steve Knight in 12th position. It looks like Steve Knight just had a bit of an off, and we're going to see Rob Whitney take 12th position for now. I think the tyres are really starting to struggle towards the end of this race. Colin Keneath is in fact going to come up on some slow traffic. If they get out of the way nicely, there will be no bother at all to him. As we head through Williams then and onto the Bentley Straight, a perfect opportunity for him to get past the lapped cars. Heading through Coram then is Colin Keneath, about 7 seconds ahead of Matt Daly for now. As it looks like we've got just in the background there we see a flying Steve Knight, who will be unfortunately relegated to 13th position following that little incident through Murray's. But Colin Keneath weaving as he crosses the line to take home the victory in this race. A very, very impressive drive throughout the entire championship for Colin Keneath, taking home first position. Matt Daly not too far behind in second, giving himself the championship win. Well done to Matt Daly. Once again, impressive driving from both of the championship contenders. Thoroughly deserved for Matt Daly. He rounds out the second spot on the podium. And then a few seconds behind him, after an intense battle for third position that went on for much of this race, we see Andrew Ayed rounding out the bottom spot of the podium. Well done to him. Anthony Gray managed to keep Greg Young behind till the end of this race, taking home 4th. Greg Young taking home 5th. Luke Wiggins takes home 6th, as Alan Matthews takes home 7th. Barry Clayton, after the quite impressive amount of battling that was happening towards the end of the previous lap there, people flying off track, etc. Barry Clayton is preparing himself to take 8th position now. Nice little train of cars behind him. The cars of Will Harper and Will Inglis. And unfortunately, heading through Murray's, Barry Clayton has just run a little bit wide, dipping onto the grass a little bit, maybe outbraked himself. Will Harper has a much better exit and will see himself promoted up into 8th position. Well done to Will Harper for that move at the very last second of the race. Barry Clayton taking home 9th, Will Inglis taking home 10th. Guy Swarbrick takes home 11th as well, with Rob Whitney a little bit behind, taking home 12th position in just a moment. So it's congratulations and commiserations to Colin Keneath, really. He's a very impressive drive in this race. Saw him take a decisive victory, but commiserations, a very good effort, unfortunately. Does not see him taking home the championship, as Matt Daly, as he weaves in celebration through pretty much every part of the track, I think. It's a good way to keep your tyres warm, I guess, if you needed to. Matt Daly, very impressive drive. A little bit of oversteer kicking in there. The tyres must be really struggling now. But yeah, we've seen some very impressive drives. I'm trying to think of some that come to mind. It's been so long now since we commentated on TCR. Thruxton was a good one. Thruxton was him and Colin Keneath were pretty much battling the entirety of that race, and that's what I really know. That these two were some serious races, but unfortunately for Colin, it is Matt Daly who takes home the championship this time round. Well, maybe that is the wrong stream graphic, I do apologise, but we'll be joining you in just a moment for the next part of the weekend, the reverse grid race. And you join us back at the action for race 2 of this weekend. The final part of this weekend will be a reverse grid race as per usual. With just 30 seconds lights out now, we have Steve Knight and Rob Whitney lining up on the first row. We should be on for a very interesting race here, especially with the pace differential we've seen between the drivers lower down the order and the drivers the likes of Matt Daly, or should I say 2021 TCR champion Matt Daly and Colin Knief. So the gantry is lit. And we are away. Rob Whitney getting a particularly good launch there. He takes first position for the moment. We look behind, we see Matt Daly, who's also got a very good launch compared to Colin Knief, and he's found himself with a car in between. So that'll be a nice comfortable gap for him. We have a bit of position swapping going on as Guy Srobick has a big incident at the back. Oh dear, that takes out Matt Daly, that takes out Greg Young by the looks of it. It takes out both Alan Matthews, Luke Wiggins. Oh dear, big incident. The stewards will be wanting to look at that one, I can imagine, as they just headed up to the Montreal hairpin. It's just like a huge mass of cars has had a massive impact. Meanwhile, out in front, we have Wilton Gliss now in the lead. Apologies, I missed the action of what went on to see these two overtake earlier, as Steve Knight ran a little bit wide and now finds himself in the jaws of Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead now running comfortably in 3rd. Barry Clayton in 7th, as Colin Knief finds himself in 6th position. Such a shame that the points weren't a little bit closer for Colin Knief. That's what he would have wanted, especially how this weekend has gone for him so far. He's taken a race win so far, and you've got to say, for this reverse grid, it's looking pretty good for him at the moment. However, Andrew Whitehead was a little bit slow through the exit of Williams there, and it looks like Colin Knief is going to have... pardon me, that wasn't Andrew Whitehead at all. That's Barry Clayton. No, it was Andrew. Oh dear. Ignore me. As we see, is that Andrew Whitehead? No, it's Rob Whitney. It's Rob Whitney having a big impact at Brundle, and he finds himself relegated down to 12th position now. He will have Guy Srobick for company in just a moment. Meanwhile, a bit further up, we have Colin Knief hunting down Andrew Whitehead hard as he head through Murray's now. And it's not a particularly useful camera angle that it decided to give me this time round. As we see Steve Knight exploring the scenery here at Snetterton. That sees him down in 9th position now. We've got a huge train of cars heading down the centre straight. Something that I really like to see. We could be in for all manner of action heading through Riches now and up into Montreal. Colin Knief, oh dear, well, didn't quite catch how that happened, unfortunately. I just saw that Andrew Whitehead all of a sudden was looking a little bit more comfortable. Colin Knief has found himself down in 10th position now. Meanwhile, Matt Daly is back up in 5th, so his fortune to turn around a little bit. What a shame for Colin Knief there. He finds himself down in 11th. It'll be a bit of a recovery drive now. We've seen he's got some very good pace around here in the previous race, so I imagine it won't be long until he's battling some other cars. Out in front then we have Wilton Gliss, who has Will Harper for company. And in fact, it looks like Will Harper will now be taking first position following Wilton Gliss's small mistake there that saw him off the tarmac. Andrew Whitehead is overtaking Steve Knight. Is he? Oh dear, what's going on with the timing there? What's happened there is Steve Knight has had a big impact. He is very much in a wall at the moment. I can't imagine that car is feeling particularly healthy anymore after that. Now sees Barry Clayton in 5th as he gets overtaken, in fact, by Alan Matthews. Heading into Brundle. Steve Knight does, in fact, disconnect, unfortunately. He won't be able to carry on in that car. So that sees the end to Steve Knight's 2021 TCR Championship. Will Harper has found a little bit of a gap between him and Wilton Gliss. Now, we saw, actually, if you joined us on Tuesday for the test event in the 156 and 155 touring cars, Will Harper does have some serious pace, and he has posted a 156.3. so far, which I believe is the fastest lap of the race so far, because there haven't been many clean laps so far within the first 5 minutes of this race, it must be said. And I can imagine our quick drivers as well, not to say that they are not all quick, but are exceptionally quick drivers in the form of Matt Daly and Colin Keneath, are carrying a little bit of damage. Especially Colin Keneath, he won't have been going slowly as he headed into the wall, where we've just passed now on track. He's in 9th at the moment, so he's climbing up the order ever so slightly, and we've got 20 minutes to go, so it'll be interesting actually to see where he finishes in the end. As we've seen so far, it's not difficult to find yourself pointing the wrong way here at Snetterton, so he could be on for a nice podium position perhaps, regardless. Barry Clayton and Luke Wiggins are having a little bit of an intensive battle so far in this race, and we've now seen Luke Wiggins dive down the inside under braking to overtake Barry Clayton, and now Barry Clayton has Greg Young for company heading through Williams. Looks like he's backed off a little bit almost though, however, he does have the benefit of slipstream, as we see Matt Daly weaving and wiggling a little bit on the straight. I wonder if that is to break the slipstream. I imagine it will be. I can't imagine he wants any more temperature in the tyres. Our speed trap graphic is not looking very useful there, so I will just do a professional job of fixing it very quickly. There we go. That's looking... that'll do. That's looking slightly better now. Only the most professional broadcast here provided by Reeve. And we see, in fact, that Matt Daly, it looks like his little technique, whatever it was, weaving down the bench straight has worked for him at the moment. He's got a little bit more of a gap heading down the pit straight, as we see Greg Young in the background, riding probably about as much curb as you want to risk before you start either causing damage or losing control. Nice lap from Matt Daly there, 155.7. He's running nicely. He'll be soon challenging Andrew Whitehead for the podium positions, and that'll be a good little battle to see. Two quick drivers, very quick drivers indeed. Colin Keneath is a few seconds behind Greg Young now. He is closing in ever so slightly. We have a bit of an intense battle for third position, it looks like, as Andrew Whitehead is going to dive in on the inside of Will Inglis and take second position. That will leave Will Harper under quite a bit of pressure. That first position is not looking healthy at all. Of course, if this battle is kind of for first, second, third, really, because we have Matt Daly not far behind either, and of course, if it doesn't go well up in front for Will Harper or Andrew Whitehead, we could soon see Will Inglis or Matt Daly capitalising on that and taking the top spots of the podium. See, in typical TCR, well, we don't see that in typical TCR fashion. A little bit of oversteer coming from Andrew Whitehead there. That won't help him at all on the exit onto the Bentley straight. Will Inglis and Matt Daly will be carrying much more speed following that. It looked awesome. It's not what you want to do, though. Will Inglis is going to switch around to the other side of the straight to have the inside line, and he's going to go very brave under braking there. He's just about kept it on track. I can imagine that was a little bit scary from the cockpit camera, but he does get the move done. Very good work from Will Inglis there. And the fact that has now kind of cornered Andrew Whitehead into the jaws of Matt Daly. Matt Daly looking around the outside of Coram. And as we head into Murray's now, I can imagine he's going to... Oh no, he's going to try the outside again. Oh no, he's not really. He's going to kind of echo him and stay behind. I was thinking that Matt Daly was perhaps being a little borderline stupid there, really. Thinking he's going to go around the outside of Murray's. He is a much better racing driver than I could be, and he chooses to keep it safe, and is going to try and get the overtake done heading in. We are too wide heading through Riches there. Very brave from Matt Daly. It looks like it didn't quite work for him going around the outside, and Andrew Whitehead will take third position heading into Montreal. A bit of a lock-up from Will Harper, a bit of a lock-up from Will Inglis, and it looks like Will, that hasn't gone quite as he would have wanted, that corner for Will Inglis. And slowly but surely, we now have this four-car battle for the podium, really. Back where it was but a few laps ago. I say a few laps ago, I mean last lap. As we see in the background there, Luke Wiggins and Alan Matthews battling as they would be. We're going to stay with... actually, no, we're going to join them. No, we're going to stay with the battle for the podium as we head through Hamilton now. Matt Daly has a bit of a better run, and he's going to look down the inside of Andrew Whitehead, but that wasn't quite going to work. But Andrew Whitehead has dipped the car onto the grass a little bit, and I can't imagine that exit is going to be particularly helpful as Matt Daly heads down the inside through Williams now. Andrew Whitehead hangs it around the inside and just about keeps out in front for now. He's going to dive back in front of Matt Daly. And Matt Daly is now going to try and rely on the slipstream to position himself well into Brundle. As Guy Swarbrick pits there, we can see, I imagine, to repair some damage, maybe some early on damage that he got from that big crash early on. Maybe put some softer compound tyres on, see if he can get some quick laps in. But Will Harper and Will Inglis look a little bit untidy there. Will Harper in particular was bouncing around all over the shop, heading into Coram there. And Will Inglis is going to look in the inside there, but that was very brave indeed for Will Inglis. Another big crash, big crash. Looks like Andrew Whitehead and Will Harper came off worse from that. It almost looked like Will Inglis tried to go down the inside under braking, caught Will Inglis. That put a bit of a, Will Inglis tried to go down the inside. That put a bit of a swapper on Will Harper's car, and unfortunately collected Andrew Whitehead in the process. That now relegates Will Harper into 9th, Andrew Whitehead into 7th. And as I said, it could turn around quite easily. Matt Daly is now in 1st, heading into Montreal. I imagine Will Inglis is going to try and usurp 3rd position from him. But all of a sudden, this little battle, oh, that's an interesting line from Luke Wiggins there. Okay, not one that I'd usually go for, but I don't know that much. Yeah, that now sees a little battle between these two drivers who know how to battle each other very well indeed. Sees them now fighting for the bottom spot of the podium, as we see Greg Young in the background there getting a little bit of a swapper on out of Palmer. And unfortunately, that sees him down in 9th now. That's helped out Colin Knief, that's helped out Will Harper, that's helped out Matt Daly, pardon me, not Matt Daly, Will Inglis just a little bit. Pardon me, not Will Inglis, Andrew Whitehead. Not drunk, I promise. As we see Andrew Whitehead locking up. Was that both axles it looked like they were locked up there? Maybe the front was still rotating a little bit, but the rear was definitely locked up. Something that I've noticed in TCR cars around Snetterton, actually the rear does like to lock up quite a bit. Because you've got to run a bit of an odd brake balance to try and keep the car stable. But at the same time, you're just going to start locking the rears if you go too far rear biased. It's now about a second has opened up between the very quick Matt Daly and Will Inglis. Matt Daly has been kind of set free now, and he'll be feeling very happy about the way that this race has gone, I can imagine, especially given how it started. But once again, there is not much at all between Alan Matthews and Luke Wiggins. We're going to head down the pit straight now, and Luke Wiggins is going to just stay millimetre perfect pretty much in the slipstream of Alan Matthews. Heading through Riches, this could be something interesting now. What will Alan Matthews do? No, he's going to stay around the inside, and Luke Wiggins is going to follow him. Nothing too brave from Luke Wiggins so far, but as we head into Montreal, he's going to... he's a little bit later on the braking there, but he's chose to go around the inside again. It's kind of hugging the inside almost. Alan Matthews opted to go a little bit wider on the exit. As we see Will Inglis going pretty far into the grass on the exit of Palmer there. Of course, obviously the most important strategy difference between these two drivers there is that one has the headlights on and one doesn't. That's got to be at least worth 0.1, 0.2, maybe 0.04 of a horsepower. All the difference in the world. As we see the car of Alan Matthews getting a little bit messy there. We're over the halfway point of this race now. It's been a very exciting race so far, and hopefully the second half will be just as entertaining as we head through Williams. 230, oh, that seems incorrect from the speed trap graphic there. But as we head through Williams, we see Luke Wiggins was a little bit deeper onto the grass than he would have wanted. And heading into Brundle, he has a look around the outside for a moment. That would give him the inside line. But then again, I presume that Alan Matthews was defending pretty harsh there and took the inside line as well. Luke Wiggins driving a very good race at the moment. He hasn't got too hot and bothered behind the car of Alan Matthews. He hasn't tried anything too brave or ridiculous. He's just playing it nicely, just copying Alan Matthews' every move, and so far it's working for him. He's clearly demonstrating the pace, and he's got a little bit of a better line through Riches there, and through Montreal. He's going to Oh, will he try? No, he's going to play it even safer. Locking up a little bit, heading through Montreal there, but it does give him... Oh, that's a bit of a slower exit, really, than Alan Matthews, and as we head through Palmer now, again, he's just going to copy Alan Matthews. So yeah, very, very sensible driving from Luke Wiggins there. He's not being too overly brave. He's probably seen many of the incidents that have happened around him so far in this race and has chosen to not replicate that so he doesn't end up far down the order. Colin Keneath has had a good recovery given how far down the order he was a moment ago. Will Harper is now enjoying a little battle with Andrew Whitehead, as he was before. Unfortunately, a little bit lower in position. Of course, last time these two were so close on track, it didn't end well for either of them, seeing them taking 8th and 9th position respectively. But hopefully in this next little battle we will not see such things, as Andrew Whitehead dips a rear wheel onto the grass a little bit there. That won't help him too much on the exit. He hasn't lost that much time though as we head into Brundle. As ever, these two though, Alan Matthews and Luke Wiggins, always within half a second of each other. Some amazing racing going on between these two. I think as we carry on into Series New, this would be something very good to watch indeed. As we have a bit of lap traffic coming up now for Will Inglis. Matt Daly has got past. It doesn't look like Will Inglis was very well positioned for it, really, and it has allowed Luke Wiggins and Alan Matthews to catch up just a little bit. See, Will Harper looks like he got a little bit of a better exit onto the pit straight there, and he does take 8th position. Pardon me, no, he takes 7th position. As Andrew Whitehead, oh dear, a little bit of oversteer through Richards on the exit there, and maybe that's what happened to Colin Keneath before. Just see him just kind of hurtle towards the wall. And I can't imagine that has done much favours to his car, unfortunately. Hello? Confused the cameraman for a second there. That was probably the closest shot of any Giulietta TCR car we've ever had so far this season. Yet again, there's 2 or 3 tenths separating these drivers there. They really know how to race each other well, these two do. Probably, I'd say, more out of anyone else on the grid. They have the most experience in battling each other. They seem to have a pretty similar style, and they always just seem to find each other on track. 204 miles an hour on the speed. That's wrong. I think it gets a little bit confused as soon as it sees a crash. Oh, pardon me. Small knock of the microphone there. Never did anyone any harm, apart from headphone users. I do apologise for that. Will Inglis is looking like he could soon become vulnerable to Luke Wiggins and Alan Matthews behind, though, so we could be on for a very good battle for the bottom 2 spots of the podium. And in fact, if it doesn't go well for them, we could see Colin Keneath back on the podium, which would be a very good recovery drive for both Colin Keneath and Matt Daly, actually, given how their races started. Barry Clayton, after the small earlier instance that we saw, has had a pretty nice steady race, actually, up in 6th position. Good few points in the bag for him there. On board with Will Harper then. He doesn't have much in the form of competition for the moment, as Greg Young gets past that's Guy Swarbrick. Yeah, that's lapped Guy Swarbrick. What confused me there, the reason why I paused, is that looked a lot like the camera car livery, which is what I get designated. For a second there I was wondering, has the camera car found its way out the pits somehow? That'd be quite interesting. Andrew Whitehead, that is pits, unfortunately, so that probably sees the end of his challenge this race. Meanwhile, out in front we have Will Inglis being very harshly pressured now by Luke Wiggins as we head into Williams now. There we go, 141.7 miles an hour. That's looking much more like it. Luke Wiggins is going to have a look on the inside there, try and position himself on the inside for Brundle. But what he should have waited for is exactly what's happened there with Will Inglis. He's got a bit too brave on the brakes. I imagine he's going to have to cede that position, maybe. Unfortunately, that saw him run. He was just carrying too much speed into Brundle, and he had to quickly take it to the grass, and he was luckily able to keep the car heading in the correct direction. He will have grass all over those tyres now. I can't imagine the grip is particularly good in them anymore. And he will have Alan Matthews for company. So Luke Wiggins has found himself sitting nicely in second position now, but just over a second separating him and the car behind. Luke Wiggins, in fact, having a pretty good lap. In fact, Colin Knief behind them having a very good lap as well, as the fuel loads start to get lighter. Maybe the drivers have learnt their lesson from the previous race and have started to look after the tyres a little bit better. I was thinking I've seen as Alan Matthews overtakes Will Inglis for the bottom spot of the podium now. So for a moment, Will Inglis did in fact lead this race, but unfortunately that has slightly unravelled. A couple of mistakes have crept in there that saw him under braking go off or have that unfortunate collision with Will Harper a few laps ago. So there's about 2 seconds separating Alan Matthews after he battled to get past Will Inglis. It's about 2 seconds separating him and Luke Wiggins. So he's safe for now in second. However, if he gets just a corner wrong, he'll be surely pressured by him again. And as I was saying, I don't think I've seen quite as much kind of tyre drop-off as we saw in the previous race. But it is still a huge factor in these cars around this circuit. Luke Wiggins dips onto the grass a little bit, as does Will Inglis. Will Inglis is doing a fairly good job of staying with Alan Matthews, it must be said, actually. Colin Knief, I imagine, in the final few minutes of this race is going to try and put pressure on, as Matt Daly out of nowhere sets a very good lap, a 155.1. Even if the tyres are starting to wear off, the fuel loads are getting lower, and it shows. Matt Daly putting in a very good lap there. It'll be a fairly decisive victory for him. He drove through the field. He had a very good launch at the start of the race, had a collision not long after, and since then has slowly worked his way through, capitalised on a couple of other people's mistakes, and has found himself leading this race for the past few laps now. And he's setting some very good pace indeed. Anthony Gray and Rob Whitney have swapped positions there for 9th and 10th. And good to see that Andrew Whitehead is carrying on. This is the final race of this championship after all. And oh dear, it's commentator's curse for Andrew Whitehead there, unfortunately. I do apologise, as we just see Giulietta slowly fading into the distance. A little bit of oversteer through Brundle for Andrew Whitehead there. I presume he'll be on new tyres, but even so, these cars are very challenging around this circuit. In fact, Will Inglis and Alan Matthews, I'm not sure what happened with Alan Matthews there, however, he now has Colin Knief for company for 4th position, and this is going to be hard fought. Colin Knief squeezing him wide on the exit of Williams there, really not giving him millimetres more than he necessarily wants to. Looks like he's going to edge out in front just at the moment. Maybe a little bit of difference in setup there, allowing him to eke out a little bit of a top speed advantage. Well, he is now under immense pressure to keep 4th position. Will Inglis seeing himself back up in 3rd. And as we head into the final couple of minutes of this race, I'll just do a quick rundown of the moment. But we are going to stay with Alan Matthews and Colin Knief as we head through Murray's and onto the pit straight. So as we close in on the final couple of laps of this race, we have Matt Daly, driven a very good race so far. He is our championship holder now. Very good job to him all season, and it shows just what he can do, does this race. Very good drive from him. In 1st position, 5 seconds in front of Luke Wiggins, who after some very good battling with Alan Matthews is in 2nd. We have Will Inglis in 3rd. We have Alan Matthews in 4th, under pressure from Colin Knief in 5th. Barry Clayton not too far behind, a very good race from him as well, taking home 6th, recovering from a couple of earlier on collisions. 6th position, so very well done to him. Will Harper taking home 7th, unfortunately, battling for the win earlier on. Unfortunately, bit of contact sees him relegated down into 7th. Greg Young is in 8th, and Anthony Gray is in 9th, crossing the line now. Rob Whitney is in 10th. Andrew Whitehead is in 11th after that unfortunate collision with Will Harper that we saw earlier on, and a couple more collisions. It looks like is he retiring from the race there? I think Andrew Whitehead is retiring from the race, unfortunately for him. So that will be the end of his championship. Guy Swarbrick rounds out the grid in 12th position. So we've got a little bit of gaps building between the cars now, as we are on the penultimate lap of this race. Everything starts to settle down. I think the action, the collisions, the battles are coming to a close for not only this race weekend, but this season. It's been my first season in online commentary, as you can probably tell by the numerous mistakes, technical issues, etc. But I do hope you have enjoyed both myself and McRae. McRae unfortunately wasn't able to complete the season with us, but he did an immense amount of work and did an amazing job of helping us out for the majority of this season. So I hope between me and McRae and some of the very good racing action that you have seen in this season, you have enjoyed what you have seen. And we will stay with Matt Daly for the final lap of this race as Luke Wiggins dips a rear wheel over the curb there. Smashed windscreen on Matt Daly's car just shows just some battle scars from some of the intense racing that it has seen, not only in this race but in this season. In fact, Colin Knief and Alan Matthews have swapped for position. Sorry that I missed that. Colin Knief has finally, Alan Matthews did put up a good fight, but Colin Knief has taken home 4th position. He now has Will Inglis. Maybe he can still get a podium after all. It'll be a very good recovery drive from both him and Matt Daly if they can do that. As Andrew Whitehead retires from the race there, unfortunately. Not how he would have wanted his final race weekend in the TCR cars this year to have gone. Will Inglis and Colin Knief are battling hard through Nelson now. Looks like Colin Knief had a bit of an explore up the inside, but had to concede the position. Will Inglis defending aggressively there as we head into Coram. I'm also wanting to watch this, but I'm also wanting to watch 2021 TCR Championship winner Matt Daly cross the line in 1st position. Very good drive the entire year, and I'm sure he'll be celebrating for the entirety of this lap. Luke Wiggins taking home 2nd. Will Inglis, it's going to come right to the wire. Will Inglis just about takes 3rd position from Colin Knief. There was thousandths of a second in that, it must be said. Well fought for both drivers there. Will Inglis taking home 3rd, Colin Knief taking home 4th, Alan Matthews taking home 5th, Barry Clayton taking home 6th. Will Harper, massive for that. That's finishing the race and the season in style for Will Harper there. Can't imagine it did the car any favours, but it doesn't need to use it anymore. So Will Harper taking home 7th, Greg Young taking home 8th. Anthony Gray a little bit behind. We'll join them in just a moment, but once again, congratulations to Matt Daly. Andy Gray takes home 9th, and not too far behind, Rob Whitney takes home 10th. Guy Swarbrick taking home 11th position. Well, that was an exciting race weekend to round out what has been an exciting season of TCR racing. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I've thoroughly enjoyed starting out commentating on it. Of course, the racing action for the Alfa Romeo Owners Club Racing Leagues is not over at all. Not only do we have the conclusion to the very close Formula Alpha Championship next week, We also have next week National Alpha Day. If you're not yet aware, National Alpha Day, the Racing League's team will be there with our own sim racing challenge, the Chris Knott Insurance Challenge, where you can test your mettle on some sim racing equipment and win some very good gear indeed. So that'll be next week at Bicester Heritage. Get tickets if you haven't already. We have Formula Alpha next week. And, however, for the Giulietta TCRs, it is the end of the road so far in this championship. Once again, thoroughly enjoyed commentating it. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed watching it. And until the next bit of racing action, it will be goodbye from me. Thank you very much.